The massive chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations had gathered for humanity's first diplomatic meeting. At the center of the room, Admiral James Walker stood tall in his crisp blue uniform, representing Earth and her colonies. The council members towered over him. Most alien species evolved from larger creatures, making the average council member nearly 8 feet tall. Their massive frames filled specially designed chairs that made Walker's seat look like children's furniture. "We have reviewed your fleet specifications," rumbled High Counselor Rex, his gray scales gleaming under the chamber lights. "There must be some mistake in the data." Walker maintained a neutral expression. "No mistake, High Counselor. The data is accurate." Laughter erupted across the chamber. Several council members didn't even try to hide their amusement. One delegate, a towering insectoid, clicked its mandibles in what passed for their species' version of a chuckle. "You expect us to believe," said Ambassador Tor, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, "that your largest battleship is only 400 meters in length. Our civilian transport vessels are larger." Walker nodded calmly. "Size isn't everything, Ambassador. Our ships are designed for efficiency." This triggered another wave of laughter. High Counselor Rex raised a massive hand, trying to restore order, but even he was fighting back his amusement. "Admiral Walker," Rex said, "understand our position. Every spacefaring race in known history has followed a similar progression. As technology advances, ships grow larger to accommodate more powerful engines, stronger weapons, and better defenses. Your tiny fleet goes against all known engineering principles." Walker remained standing, hands clasped behind his back. 20 years of military service had taught him patience. "Perhaps that says more about your engineering principles than our ships." A murmur of displeasure rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Tor leaned forward, his ridge crest flaring with irritation. "Are you suggesting that 37 civilizations, some spacefaring for thousands of years, are wrong?" "Not wrong," Walker replied. "Just different. Humanity took a different path." High Counselor Rex tapped his data pad, bringing up a holographic display. 2 ships appeared side by side, a massive council destroyer and a human cruiser. The size difference was stark. "Your largest vessel," Rex said, pointing to the human ship, "would fit in our destroyer's cargo bay. How do you expect to defend your territories with such inadequate ships?" Walker stepped closer to the hologram. "We'd be happy to demonstrate our capabilities in joint military exercises. Why waste the fuel?" Someone shouted from the back, triggering more laughter. Rex silenced the chamber again. "Admiral Walker, we mean no disrespect, but the Council has standards. We cannot grant full membership to a civilization that cannot properly defend itself. Perhaps in a few centuries when your technology advances." "With all due respect," Walker interrupted, his voice carrying across the chamber, "Earth isn't asking for protection. We're offering alliance." The laughter this time was deafening. Several council members actually left their seats, too overcome with amusement to maintain proper diplomatic posture. Walker watched them laugh, his face unchanging. In his pocket, his communicator vibrated. A message from Earth Command. He read it discreetly. "Border sensors detect Empire fleet movement. Possible hostile intent. 7th Fleet on standby." Looking up at the amused faces of the Council, Walker felt a touch of sadness. Humanity had hoped for a peaceful first contact, for mutual understanding. Instead, they got mockery. "High Counselor," Walker said, his voice cutting through the laughter, "I request permission to withdraw. It seems we have nothing further to discuss." Rex waved a massive hand dismissively. Of course. Return to your tiny ships, Admiral. Perhaps when you build proper vessels, we can speak again." Walker bowed slightly and turned to leave. At the chamber door, he paused and looked back. "A word of advice, Council members. Throughout human history, those who confused size with capability rarely lasted long." The chamber erupted in fresh laughter as Walker left. None of them noticed his small smile, the same smile that human commanders had worn throughout history, just before proving their doubters wrong. As his shuttle departed the Council station, Walker opened a secure channel to Earth Command. "Prepare the 7th Fleet," he said quietly. "I have a feeling we'll need them soon." The Council's laughter would fade soon enough, and when it did, they'd learn why humans built small ships, not because they had to, but because they could. 2 weeks after the disastrous Council meeting, Admiral Walker stood on the bridge of his command ship, Swift Justice, watching tactical displays with growing concern. The Empire's fleet movements had become more aggressive, pushing closer to human space with each passing day. "Another border crossing, sir," reported Lieutenant Mike from his station. "Third one this week. Empire ships are testing our response times." Walker studied the red dots representing Empire vessels. Their massive ships moved with arrogant confidence, knowing they dwarfed any human vessel in the sector. The Empire, not part of the Galactic Council, had a reputation for absorbing weaker civilizations into their domain. "Message from Empire Command," Mike announced. "They claim it's a navigational error." Again, Walker allowed himself a small frown. That's the same excuse they used last time. The bridge crew exchanged knowing looks. Everyone understood what was happening. The Empire was probing for weaknesses, expecting the tiny human fleet to retreat from their overwhelming size advantage. A priority alert flashed across the main screen. Captain Tom of the Border Patrol stepped into view, his expression grim. "Admiral, we've got trouble. Empire ships just seized one of our mining outposts in the Theta sector. They're claiming it was built in their territory by mistake." Walker's jaw tightened. The outpost had been operating for 5 years, well within human space. This wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate provocation. "Any casualties?" Walker asked. "No, sir. They gave our miners 10 minutes to evacuate, but they've installed their own crews now. 3 warships standing guard." Walker nodded slowly. The Empire was following their standard playbook. Start with small provocations, gauge the response, then escalate. They'd done the same thing to 6 other species before absorbing them. "Message coming in from the Empire flagship," Mike reported. The screen lit up with the massive form of Empire Commander Dax, his tentacled face twisted in what passed for a smile in his species. "Admiral Walker, I trust you received news about the mining outpost situation." "The outpost you illegally seized?" "Yes, we received word." Dax's tentacles rippled with amusement. "Illegal? The outpost was clearly in Empire space. We were quite generous in allowing your people to evacuate. The outpost is 15 light-years inside human territory." Walker replied calmly. "We have maps and treaties proving it." Perhaps Dax's massive form leaned closer to the screen. "You should invest in better navigational equipment. I understand your tiny ships might have outdated systems." Walker heard his bridge crew stiffen at the insult. He kept his voice level. "Commander Dax, I'm giving you one chance to withdraw from the outpost and prevent further escalation." Laughter boomed through the speakers. "Escalation? Admiral, be reasonable. Your largest ship could fit in my vessel's waste disposal unit. Don't force us to demonstrate the difference between real warships and your toy fleet." The transmission cut off before Walker could respond. He turned to his communications officer. "Send word to Earth Command. The Empire has crossed the line." "Sir." Mike looked up from his station. "The 7th Fleet is ready. They're awaiting your orders." Walker allowed himself a small smile. The Empire, like the Council, had made the same critical mistake. Assuming size meant superiority. They never bothered to ask why humans built small ships. They never wondered what technological advantages could offset the size difference. They were about to learn. "Send word to all ships," Walker commanded. "Initiate Protocol Delta, and get me a secure line to the 7th Fleet's commander." As his crew rushed to comply, Walker watched the tactical display showing the massive Empire ships around the seized outpost. They looked like giants compared to the human vessels, but appearances could be deceiving. "Sir," Mike spoke up, "Empire long-range sensors show more of their ships heading toward other human outposts. They think we'll back down." "Let them think that," Walker replied. "How long until the 7th Fleet can deploy?" 4 hours at maximum speed, sir." Walker nodded. "Perfect. Let's show the Empire why humanity never needed to build bigger ships. Sometimes, the smallest predator is the most dangerous." The bridge crew worked with renewed purpose. Soon, very soon, the Empire would learn what the Council had missed, that human engineering had taken a very different path, and their tiny ships were about to change the balance of power in the galaxy. The Empire fleet hung in space like a wall of metal, their massive ships blocking out the stars behind them. 12 capital ships, each over 2 kilometers long, surrounded the captured mining outpost. Commander Dax stood on his bridge, watching with amusement as human vessels appeared on his scanners. "Look at them," he chuckled to his crew. "They're sending 6 ships against our 12. And such tiny things, too." His tactical officer, a veteran of 3 conquest campaigns, zoomed in on the approaching human vessels. "They're in attack formation, Commander. They actually intend to fight." "How adorable," Dax said. "Let's give them a proper demonstration of real military power. Target their lead ship with our main cannon. One shot should end this foolishness." The massive Empire flagship turned slowly, its main weapon powering up with a glow visible from light years away. Energy readings spiked as the cannon prepared to fire. But something was wrong. "Sir," the tactical officer frowned at his displays. "I can't get a lock on their ships. The targeting computer keeps losing them." Dax moved to the tactical station, his tentacles writhing in irritation. "Impossible. They're right there in front of us." "Yes, sir, but..." The officer adjusted his controls. "Their energy signatures keep shifting. It's like trying to target a ghost." Before Dax could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. 3 human ships had somehow slipped past their front line, moving with impossible speed and maneuverability. "How did they..." Dax's question was cut short as the first shots were fired. What happened next would be discussed in military academies for decades to come. The human ships, despite their small size, fired weapons that punched clean through Empire shields. Their beams were focused so precisely that they sliced through critical systems with surgical accuracy. Shields failing on decks 5 through 8. An officer shouted. "How are they doing this? Their weapons shouldn't be this powerful." Dax watched in horror as 2 of his massive ships went dark, their power cores precisely targeted and disabled. The human vessels moved like fighters, but hit like dreadnoughts. "Launch fighters," Dax commanded. "Surround them. They can't dodge everything." Empire fighters poured from launch bays by the hundreds. They swarmed toward the human ships, expecting an easy victory through sheer numbers. That's when the humans revealed their second surprise. Each tiny human ship suddenly split apart, separating into 3 smaller vessels. What had been 6 ships became 18, each moving with even greater speed and agility. "Impossible." Dax slammed his tentacles against the command console. "No ship that small can have enough power for weapons and shields." But they did. The human vessels danced through the Empire fighter screen, their advanced miniaturized technology allowing them to pack overwhelming firepower into frames a fraction of the size of their opponents. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." Admiral Walker's calm face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, his bridge looked impossibly small to Empire eyes. "Commander Dax," Walker said, "I believe this demonstration has made our point. Would you like to discuss the return of our mining outpost now?" Dax stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 4 of his capital ships were disabled. His fighter screen was in chaos, and the human vessels were now surrounding his command ship, their weapons clearly capable of cutting it to pieces. "How?" Dax demanded. "How did you fit such power into such small ships?" Walker smiled slightly. We learned long ago that bigger isn't always better. Humanity focused on efficiency, miniaturization, and precision. Your ships are impressive, Commander, but they're also wasteful. All that size just makes you easier to hit. Dax looked at his burning fleet, then back at Walker. You could have built large ships. Why didn't you? Because we didn't need to, Walker replied simply. Now, about that outpost. Within an hour, Empire crews were evacuating the mining facility. As human ships escorted the Empire fleet out of their territory, Walker sent a message to Earth Command. First engagement successful. The Empire has learned what the Council missed. Never judge human engineering by size alone. In the days that followed, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. The Empire's humbling became a warning to others. Humanity's tiny fleet had just changed the rules of space warfare forever. And this was only the beginning. The Galactic Council called an emergency session 3 days after the battle. The chamber that had once echoed with laughter at humanity's tiny fleet now buzzed with nervous whispers. High Counselor Rex watched the battle recordings for the 4th time, his scales pale with worry. "Play it again," he commanded. "Focus on the weapon signatures." The holographic display showed a human vessel, barely visible against the backdrop of space, firing a beam that sliced through an Empire capital ship's shields like they weren't there. "Impossible," muttered Ambassador Tor, his 4 eyes fixed on the display. "Their power output exceeds anything we thought possible from a ship that size." A team of the Council's best engineers had been analyzing the battle data nonstop. Their lead scientist, Dr. Gray, stood before the Council, looking troubled. "The humans," he explained, "have mastered technologies we thought were theoretical. Their power cores use principles we barely understand." "Explain," Rex demanded. Gray pointed to a diagram of a human ship. "While we build bigger ships to house larger power cores, they found a way to compress the same energy into a fraction of the space. Their miniaturization technology is beyond anything we've seen." The council chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. Ambassador Tor leaned forward. "How did they achieve this?" "They took a completely different path," Gray replied. "Instead of following standard engineering progression, they focused on efficiency. Their ships aren't just smaller. They're better designed at a fundamental level." The hologram showed a human ship splitting into 3 smaller vessels, each maintaining full combat capability. The council members watched in stunned silence. "Each component," Gray continued, "is optimized beyond our best efforts. Their shield generators are the size of our personal devices, but produce barriers stronger than our largest ships. Their weapons used focused energy channels that make our best guns look primitive." Rex slammed his massive hand on his chair. "Why didn't we detect this capability before?" "Because we didn't look," Gray admitted. "We saw small ships and assumed primitive technology. The humans let us believe what we wanted to believe." A new hologram appeared, showing internal scans of a damaged Empire ship. The precision of the human weapons was clear. They hadn't just attacked. They had performed surgery with their weapons. "Look here," Gray pointed. "Their targeting systems are so precise they can hit specific components through multiple layers of hull. They don't need massive weapons. They just need to hit the right spot." The council members shifted uncomfortably. Many had dismissed humanity as a minor power, unworthy of serious attention. Now they realized their mistake. "There's more," Gray added. "Their ship's maneuverability isn't just from being small. They've developed inertial control systems that should be impossible at that scale. Their crews can withstand maneuvers that would tear our ships apart." Rex looked at the battle footage again. The human ships moved like dancers among the stars, their speed and agility making the Empire's massive vessels look clumsy and outdated. "What are the implications?" Tor asked quietly. Gray's expression was grim. "Every assumption we've made about spacecraft design for the last 1,000 years is wrong. The humans didn't follow our path because they found a better one." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Centuries of established military doctrine. engineering principles, and tactical theory had been upended by humanity's tiny fleet. "Message from Earth Command," announced the Chamber's communications officer. "Admiral Walker requests to address the Council." Rex nodded slowly. The same admiral they had laughed at weeks ago now commanded respect that no amount of size could match. Walker's image appeared before them, still standing on his small bridge. But no one was laughing now. "Council members," he said calmly, "I believe it's time we discussed revision of those membership requirements, particularly the ones about adequate defense capabilities." Rex looked around the chamber. The same council members who had mocked human ships now sat in stunned silence. "Indeed, Admiral," Rex replied. "The Council has much to reconsider. Perhaps you could share some insights about human engineering philosophy." Walker smiled slightly. "We'd be happy to. After all, the galaxy is changing. Size isn't everything. It's what you do with it that counts." As the Council prepared for humanity's presentation, one thing was clear: the age of massive warships was ending. The future belonged to those who understood that sometimes the smallest package could contain the biggest surprises. Admiral Walker stood on his command bridge as the 7th Fleet assembled. 40 human ships, each a masterpiece of miniaturized technology, formed up in attack formation. Against them, the Empire had positioned their remaining fleet, a wall of massive vessels that stretched across space like a metal mountain range. "Enemy count 65 capital ships," reported Lieutenant Mike. "They've called in reinforcements from 3 sectors." Walker nodded. The Empire was determined to save face after their first defeat. They gathered every ship they could find, hoping to overwhelm humanity's smaller fleet through sheer mass. "All ships, battle formation Delta," Walker commanded. "Remember your training. Size is their weakness, not their strength." The human fleet split into 5 groups, each taking position near the dense asteroid field that marked the border between human and Empire space. Walker had chosen this battlefield carefully. "Enemy fleet advancing," Mike announced. "They're moving in a standard wedge formation." Walker watched the massive Empire ships approach. Their formation was perfect for ships their size. But that was exactly the problem. "Interesting," Walker mused. "They still haven't figured it out." "Figured what out, sir?" "Why we build small ships." Walker smiled. "Launch Operation Needle." The human fleet suddenly scattered, each ship diving into the asteroid field. To the Empire commanders, it looked like a retreat. Their massive ships began pursuing, their heavy weapons charging. But the asteroids were too densely packed for their large vessels. They had to move slowly, carefully, using their size to push smaller rocks aside while avoiding the larger ones. The human ships, however, moved like fish in water. "Now," Walker ordered, "show them why being small is an advantage." Human vessels darted between asteroids at full speed, their precise maneuverability allowing them to use the rocky field as both cover and weapon. They emerged from behind asteroids to strike at Empire ships, then vanished again before the larger vessels could turn to respond. "Empire fleet is breaking formation," Mike reported with a grin. "They can't maintain their battle line in the asteroids." That was exactly what Walker had planned for. The massive Empire ships, trying to stay together, created traffic jams in the tight spaces between asteroids. They blocked each other's lines of fire and couldn't turn quickly enough to track the nimble human vessels. "Target their engines," Walker commanded. "Let's see how they like being stranded in our territory." The human ships struck with surgical precision. Each attack targeted crucial systems, engines, weapons, shields. The Empire's huge vessels became sitting ducks, unable to maneuver effectively in the confined space. "Sir," Mike called out, "Enemy Admiral requesting communication." The Empire Admiral's face appeared on screen, his expression a mixture of rage and disbelief. This is not proper warfare. You hide like cowards among the rocks." "No," Walker replied calmly. "We're fighting smart. Your ships are impressive in open space, Admiral. But space isn't always open, is it? As if to emphasize his point, 3 human ships darted past the Empire flagship, their precision weapons slicing through its engine nacelles. The massive vessel began to drift, its size now nothing but a liability. 15 enemy ships disabled, Mike reported. 10 more retreating. The rest are trapped in the asteroid field. Walker watched as his fleet continued their assault. The human ships moved like a swarm of deadly insects, striking from all angles. The Empire's mighty armada was being dismantled piece by piece. Send word to all ships, Walker ordered. Push them back. Today we show the galaxy that humanity doesn't need size to dominate space. The battle continued for another hour, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Empire's strategy of overwhelming force had failed completely against human tactics and technology. Their massive ships, once symbols of power, had become their greatest weakness. As the last Empire vessel retreated, Walker opened a channel to all human ships. Well done, everyone. Today we proved that innovation beats tradition, efficiency beats size, and humanity's path was the right one all along. The victory was complete. In the days to come, the galaxy would learn a valuable lesson. Sometimes the smallest fleet could be the deadliest, and humanity's tiny ships had just reshaped the balance of power among the stars. News of humanity's second victory spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. In the council chamber, representatives from 37 civilizations watched recordings of the battle in stunned silence. The sight of tiny human ships dismantling the Empire's finest fleet had shattered centuries of military doctrine. Look at this, Dr. Gray pointed to a holographic replay. The human ships aren't just small, they're smart. Every move has a purpose. Every attack hits a vital system. High Counselor Rex studied the footage intently. The same ships he had mocked weeks ago now represented a revolution in space warfare. How many Empire vessels were disabled? 43 capital ships, Gray replied, all without a single human vessel lost. Their precision in the asteroid field was unprecedented. Ambassador Tor tapped his data pad nervously. My government has already received 6 requests from our military to study human ship design. Everyone wants to know how they pack so much power into such small frames. The council chamber, once filled with laughter at humanity's expense, now buzzed with urgent discussions. Representatives huddled in groups, talking in hushed tones about alliances, treaties, and technology exchanges. Message from Earth Command, announced the chamber's communications officer. They're requesting a full council session. Rex straightened in his chair. Display the message. Admiral Walker appeared before the council, standing on his tiny bridge with quiet confidence. The same bridge that had once been mocked as inadequate now commanded respect from every species present. Council members, Walker began, I trust you've reviewed the recent battle data. We have, Rex replied, his earlier condescension replaced with careful respect. Your victory was illuminating. More than a victory, Walker corrected. It was a demonstration. Humanity didn't build small ships because we had to. We built them because they're better. The council chamber remained silent as Walker continued. Our engineers took a different path. While others built bigger, we built smarter. While others wasted space, we perfected efficiency. Dr. Gray stepped forward. Admiral, my team has analyzed your battle tactics. The way you used the asteroid field was exactly why we design our ships this way. Walker finished. Space isn't empty. It's full of obstacles, hazards, and opportunities. A ship that can't adapt to its environment is just a target. Representatives began sending messages to their homeworlds. The implications were clear. The age of massive warships was ending. Humanity's approach to space warfare had proven superior in every way. The Empire's fleet, Rex noted, was considered the strongest in 3 sectors. Yet your ships turned their size against them. Walker nodded. Big ships are impressive, Counselor, but impressive isn't the same as effective. The Council's military advisor, a veteran of countless space battles, spoke up. Every military handbook will need to be rewritten. Every fleet will need to be redesigned. This changes everything. Change can be good, Walker replied. Humanity is willing to share some of our design philosophy with allies who understand and respect our position in the galaxy. The meaning was clear. The same council that had dismissed humanity as primitive was now being offered a chance to learn from them. Pride warred with pragmatism in many representatives' eyes. Rex rose from his chair, his massive frame no longer seeming as impressive as it once had. Admiral Walker, on behalf of the Council, I formally apologize for our earlier misconceptions. We would be honored to learn from humanity's experience. Walker's slight smile spoke volumes. Apology accepted, Counselor. I look forward to productive discussions about the future of galactic ship design. As the transmission ended, the Council chamber erupted in activity. Representatives rushed to secure meetings with human engineers. Military advisors began drafting new strategic doctrines. The balance of power had shifted fundamentally. To think, Tor mused quietly to Rex. We laughed at their ships. A mistake we won't make again, Rex replied, watching the battle footage one more time. They didn't just beat the Empire. They proved everything we thought we knew about space warfare was wrong. The galaxy was changing. Humanity's tiny fleet had shown that bigger wasn't better. Innovation, efficiency, and precision had triumphed over size and tradition. And this was only the beginning. 1 month after the asteroid field battle, Admiral Walker stood in the Council chamber again. This time, no one laughed at his tiny uniform or mocked humanity's ship designs. The massive alien representatives watched him with newfound respect as he presented the peace terms to the Empire's delegation. The terms are simple, Walker explained. Return to your recognized borders. Respect human territory. And most importantly, understand that size alone doesn't determine strength. The Empire's new commander, who had replaced the disgraced Dax, shifted uncomfortably in his oversized chair. And if we agree to these terms, then peace, Walker replied. Humanity has no interest in conquest. We only want respect and recognition of our sovereign space. High Counselor Rex, who had once dismissed human ships as toys, now sat forward attentively. The Council fully supports these terms. The Empire's aggression threatens stability across 3 sectors. The Empire commander looked around the chamber. His civilization had always relied on intimidation through size. Massive ships, huge fleets, towering representatives. But humanity's tiny fleet had broken that power forever. We accept the terms, he said finally. The Empire recognizes humanity's borders and sovereignty. Walker nodded, then delivered the final point. There's one more thing. We're offering to share some of our basic ship design principles with all peaceful species in the galaxy. The chamber erupted in excited whispers. Even the Empire commander's eyes widened with interest. Not our most advanced technology, Walker clarified, but enough to help other species understand why efficiency matters more than size. It's time the galaxy moved forward. Representatives from dozens of species began signaling their interest. The same civilizations that had laughed at human ships now desperately wanted to learn their secrets. A generous offer, Rex commented. But why share your advantage? Walker smiled slightly. Because a galaxy full of oversized, inefficient ships is dangerous for everyone. One wrong move, one navigation error, and massive vessels can cause massive damage. Smaller, more efficient ships are safer for all. The Empire commander studied Walker carefully. You planned this from the beginning, didn't you? When we mocked your ships, when we thought you were weak. We let you think what you wanted to think, Walker confirmed. Sometimes the best way to teach a lesson is to let others learn it themselves. The next few hours were spent finalizing treaties and establishing frameworks for technology sharing. Representatives who had once towered over Walker with contempt now stood eye to eye with him, metaphorically, if not literally. Humanity accepts full membership in the Galactic Council, Rex announced finally. Their seat will be equal to all others, regardless of its size. Laughter rippled through the chamber, but this time it was appreciative rather than mocking. The joke was no longer at humanity's expense, but at their own previous blindness. As the session ended, Ambassador Tor approached Walker privately. "You've changed everything," he said. "Every shipyard in the galaxy is revising their designs. Every military is rethinking their strategy." "Change was needed," Walker replied. "The galaxy was stuck in old thinking. Bigger is better. Size equals power. Humanity just showed there was another way." "And now?" Tor asked. "What does humanity want now?" Walker looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's massive windows. "The same thing we always wanted: peaceful exploration, fair trade, and mutual respect. We never needed massive ships to achieve that. We just needed to be ourselves." As Walker prepared to leave the chamber, he passed the spot where, months ago, the Council had laughed at humanity's tiny fleet. Now that same fleet had reshaped the balance of power in the galaxy, not through size or intimidation, but through innovation and efficiency. "Admiral," Rex called out as Walker reached the door. "We were wrong about humanity. About your ships. About everything." Walker turned back one last time. "No, Counselor, you weren't wrong about everything. You were right that size matters." He smiled. "You just didn't realize that sometimes smaller is better." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity's place among the stars was secured not by the size of their ships, but by the size of their ideas. And as Walker returned to his tiny command ship, he knew that the future would be very different from the past. Sometimes, the smallest changes made the biggest difference.